Hey, what's up everyone? Today I wanted to make a video highlighting Kommo-o and why I think it's severely underrated in the Pokemon Sword and Shield overused meta, at least right now. Because as it stands, I think most people see it as, a solid stealth rocker. Maybe sometimes it runs a sweeping set too, but nothing to really worry about. But I'm actually going to stick my neck out a little bit here and argue that it's one of the most versatile and unpredictable Pokemon in Sword and Shield right now. And to do this, I'm going to run through all of the main sets that I can run right now with a little bit of a demonstration. So let's start here. I'm going to ask you guys to put yourself in my shoes because I was actually playing a game just like this the other day. And I had my excadrill in against a Kommo-o, and I was trying to decide what to swap to when I realized with horror that I actually had no idea what to do. So let's look at the first example where it's revealed to be a standard defensive pivot Kommo-o. And it's actually probably a bad idea to stay in with my excadrill here and attack because it's of course going to be able to eat that right up with its great physical defenses and then return fire right away with a really strong body press or even an earthquake. So really the best move here would be to go straight up to my Clefable where I can threaten the Kommo-o back out again with a 4 times effective Moonblast and then maybe regain some momentum. Now before we move on to the next type of Kommo-o, I also want to point out how versatile even this one type of Kommo-o is, because not only will it have some good attacks and Stealth Rock, but it can also use Toxic, Taunt, or even Dragon Tail to phase out opponents. It can even run Iron Defense for a late game sweep, but I'll get into that a little bit later. For now though, with our next one, we're going to be looking at a pretty vanilla, bulky offense Kommo-o. This is similar to the defensive set we mentioned earlier, and it's going to have more of an offensive, sort of threatening presence in the game. Its high base defenses means it can swap in on anything pretty easily still, but it also has an amazing move pool, which means it can threaten out a lot of enemy Pokemon in return. And once again, excadrill staying in here to attack is probably a bad idea because it's just going to get smoked right away by Kommo-o, so switching to Clefable is still the best play. But now that we've covered the more standard Kommo-os, we can talk about what really keeps me up at night and what really scares me to my bones, which is going to be the setup sweeper Kommo-o. You wouldn't guess about looking at its more balanced stats, but it's a really terrifying setup sweeper too. To start with, we're going to look at its belly drum set. This type of Kommo-o will substitute up to cut its own health and then belly drum on top of that to lower itself down to 25%. Which not only maximizes its attack stat to ridiculous heights, but also triggers its Select Berry, which gives it a boost in speed by 1 stage. So now it's faster than the entire unboosted metagame. It has a nuke of a Drain Punch to restore its health, plus Earthquake or Thunder Punch for coverage. To make things worse, its typing means that it's hard to revenge kill, even with a priority move, like Aqua Jet, Grassy Glide, or Sucker Punch. Even Excel Rock. They're all resisted by its typing, so you'll need either a faster Scarfer to beat it, or an Ice Shard user. And this is where the crux of my argument kicks in. Because once again, if you're me in that match I mentioned earlier, and you have an excadrill in against a Kommo-o, you really shouldn't be switching to Clefable if it's a belly drum Kommo-o. If you do that, they're going to be able to set up on the switch and be able to kill that Clefable in 1 hit if it has even a little bit of chip damage or if you get a good roll. The best move is actually the opposite of what we did earlier with the excadrill. You're going to want to stay in with it and Earthquake it so that the Kommo-o can't cut its own HP to boost itself. And this is maddening, because if your opponent is smart and hasn't revealed their Kommo-o set, that means you really can't be sure what you're up against. That means you can lose your excadrill to the defensive variant or lose your whole team to the setup variant. Even a Midground play, which is something that kind of covers both options, might not save you in the situation. Because in this scenario, if I went out to my Mandibuzz or Hippowdon as a Midground, I would either let Rock Scope for free or eat a Toxic if it's the defensive variant, or if it's the offensive kind, I would probably still get beat outright because the Drain Punch restores so much health. So you're probably starting to see what I'm getting at here, but I am still not done talking about the sets, so bear with me. If you want to set up Super Kommo-o, it's also a very capable Swords Dance user, which can then boost its speed with a stab skill shot. And then it's also a great Dragon Dancer, which I usually like to pair with a Versatility Berry, so that once again, it can even beat that common Clefable swap in. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it's also a great Iron Defense user, which boosts its defense to ridiculous heights and pairs really well with that body press, so you're super hard to kill and you're still dealing out huge amounts of damage. The awesome thing about Iron Defense though is that you can throw it on just about any typical defensive pivot Kommo-o and just wait to throw it out until the late game or use it to bait and switches from Clefables or Toxapexes. It's versatile enough to fit on really any kind of Kommo-o set you can think of. This once again highlights how versatile Kommo-o is. You don't even have to commit to just setup, sweeping, or just a utility. Its moveset and stats are flexible enough so that you can do both at the same time. I could also throw Stealth Rock on its Dragon Dance set so that I can get rocks for free after baiting in a defensive Pokemon. It really is that impossible to predict. But hold on, because before I wrap up, I need to talk about Kommo-o's unique move, which is Clangorous Soul. This boosts every single one of its stats by 1 stage in exchange for cutting its health by 1/3. And if that sounds like a high price to pay, also remember that by boosting its defenses, it can now take a lot more hits than it could before. And once you're set up, I mean, the world is really your oyster. You can run a great mix set so that you can beat both physical and special walls like I broke down in this video, or you can use the new item Throat Spray, which gives Kommo-o a second boost to its special attack stat and lets it become a really terrifying special sweeper, which is once again complemented by its ridiculous move pool. And the most terrifying thing about Clanger's Soul is that now means that there's another option that this excadrill has to consider. Because if Kommo-o, let's say, boosts its special attack like we mentioned, it can beat that Clefable swap in with Flash Cannon, tank the excadrill Earthquake and hit it with Flamethrower afterwards, and really have very little trouble sweeping the rest of the team from there. The best move here is actually to go straight to your Toxapex and Haze. That's right, a third completely different counter. So that means that all told, if I'm faced with a Kommo-o in the situation that we keep coming back to, I have 3 completely different options to worry about, and really no way to know which one is right. Am I the only one that thinks that's completely nuts? Now, it's at this point that we should probably take a breather, and I should clarify that I do not think that Kommo-o is OP or impossible to counter. Like I said, actually, all these sets have pretty straightforward and defined and common answers, but the not knowing and the ambiguity that makes it so good. If your opponent respects Kommo-o as a stealth rocker, you can set up for free. If they respect Kommo-o as a sweeper, then you can get free rocks. I mean, it's really that simple. Another important disclaimer though is that all these examples I've just listed are in a vacuum, and in reality most of the time it's easy to predict which Kommo-o is which just by looking at the rest of the team surrounding it. If it's a defensive looking team or there's no obvious other rocker, then the Kommo-o is probably the defensive set. If it's all hyper offense and it fits that framework that I broke down in this video, then it's probably a sweeper. But in my opinion, I think it's only a matter of time until players start to pick up on this disparity and mix it up with their own teams. You know, maybe throw a belly drum Kommo-o on a stall team or a rocker Kommo-o on an offensive one. You know what I mean? You can really do a lot if you start to get creative with it and try to play with your opponent's expectations. But hey, I've ranted long enough. I think I'm gonna leave the video right there. I just wanted to highlight this Pokemon's amazing versatility. Some people say get you a man that can do both. Well, hey, I say get you a Pokemon who can do it all, and Kommo-o is definitely that Pokemon. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, be sure to leave me a like or maybe subscribe to the channel. All that stuff is very appreciated. Thanks again. See you next time.